Back in May of 2018, YouTube randomly put the AGDQ 2016 video of the Majora's Mask Hondo co-op run by Majin Phil, Fullgrown Gaming, Thiefbug and Trev Person in my recommended videos. The concept of speedrunning wasn't new to me at the time, but I never had any interest in it. But because I just felt in the mood for it, or some other reason, I decided to watch it. After watching this run and being absolutely amazed by it, I decided to check out a few other speedruns, and being a Zelda fan, I was especially interested in other Zelda speedruns, and being especially into Breath of the Wild, from there, I was decided. I would give a shot at speedrunning this game. That was the beginning. I completed my first any percent speedrun of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild with a time of 1:09:48 in June of 2018, and from there, I only wanted to continue. From there, I would play this game and attempt to improve my times absolutely every day. From there, I fell in love with speedrunning. However, as you can tell from the title of this video, things have changed since then. At the time of making this, I believe it has been more than 3 months since I even completed a run in any game, and I've been unwilling to even attempt anything. Why did this happen? What can be done to help with it? This is what this video will attempt to answer, not just for myself, but also for anyone who may be going through some rough patches in speedrunning. From the moment I started speedrunning, I did attempts almost every single day. Even on days when I did not do any runs, I still felt that itch to do attempts. Over the rest of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, I had one goal in mind: to reach sub 30 in Breath of the Wild any percent. And for a while, this goal was indeed within reach. Over the course of a month, I kept breaking my own PBs, going from that initial 1:09:48 to sub 50 minutes, from that sub 50 minutes to sub 40 minutes. I kept grinding and grinding runs without ever losing hope that I could eventually reach my goal of sub 30 for a month. That is, until I eventually reached a personal best time of 33:16, a time that I got in April of 2019, a time which to this day still is my personal best in Breath of the Wild any percent. When I got this PB, I felt like it could have easily improved. Just as usual, I kept grinding. After a few days, no signs of progress. But I was okay. It's normal. This was my peak Breath of the Wild performance, and I knew that at that level, improving on times could take much longer. I kept grinding almost every day up until the summer of 2019. At this point, I was running the game not because I genuinely enjoyed challenging myself, but because I was frustrated, and I needed to prove a point to myself. After my growing frustration grew to a climax, I took a break from the game and moved on to Skyward Sword any percent. For the first time, I did a speedrun outside of Breath of the Wild, and it felt like a relief. After all, when we get tired of a particular run, the advice of taking a break from that category is a common advice that runners are given, and clearly, it is for good reason. When I did come back to Breath of the Wild after those few weeks with Skyward Sword, I genuinely felt energetic about it. I felt motivated. And just like before, I kept grinding and grinding, but still no results. This is when I decided to perhaps take a longer break from Breath of the Wild, and I then started my biggest journey to escape my goal, the 3D Zelda Challenge. In September of 2019, I made a video about it, introducing the challenge that I was set to do, completing the 80% speedruns of all 3D Zelda games in one go, meaning having to learn and practice all of them, which is no easy task when you barely hold any experience in any of those games. It was more of an escape. With the 3D Zelda Challenge, I didn't need to do any more heavy grinding. I could just focus on having fun with the speedrun itself. However, as for anyone who's been following my series of videos about this challenge, you can tell what happened. I ended up growing frustrated. While a part of me still wants to do the challenge, I never felt like I was doing a challenge not out of a genuine desire to challenge myself, as I did it at the beginning, but rather to just do it, no matter how I felt about it. Sounds familiar? This is the same mentality I had when grinding Breath of the Wild any percent. After trying to learn Majora's Mask defeat Majora for a while, it is as if I suddenly had a snap, and I just stopped.
At least it seems to work. GSR, and I even made a whole video about it, and... well, never mind.
It's unfair.
I had my last attempt at learning this category back in October of 2020, and ever since then, I have not even attempted a single speedrun, nor had the will to even try it. In that moment, I killed my love for speedrunning. Speedrunning is inherently a hobby about challenging yourself, about trying to beat your best time, And if you have a particular goal in mind, it will take work and discipline to achieve it, not just motivation. It's normal, of course, that it's not always going to be fun. There are times you will need to put in a considerable effort to reach your goals. But if you get so caught up in trying to achieve a certain time that you lose sight of why you even set that goal in the first place, then this begs the question, is it really worth it?
This just took 6 hours to do. 6 hours!
Various people have different reasons to speedrun. Many people do not seek to get the best times necessarily, and just want to have fun. Some others just want to focus on routing rather than doing runs. All of these reasons are perfectly valid. As long as you have a particular reason to speedrun, even if it's something as pure as having fun, then it will always be worth your time and effort. However, trudging along, constantly doing runs over and over and over again with no reason other than just for the sake of it, because it is something you started, will lead you nowhere. In my own case, it started feeling like an obligation. This is the key word. I felt that there was an obligation that I set upon myself to keep trying and trying, no matter how I felt about doing runs. Speedrunning was what I used to procrastinate with, and it transformed into what I procrastinate from. If I had actually listened to the people telling me that I needed to make sure I needed to enjoy speedrunning first and foremost, I probably wouldn't have had that speedrun burnout. Yeah, I should have listened. But now, of course, what can be done in the future to prevent such things from happening? Is there anything you can take away from all of this and apply yourself? I suppose the best thing to do is to answer 2 questions. Do I enjoy what I am doing? And is my speedrunning goal worth it? As I said earlier, when you are working towards a certain goal, you will not always enjoy every second of it. This is why that second question is important. This will lead you to think about why you even are working towards a certain goal. And as I said earlier, forgetting that reason can lead to a mentality shift. If you find out that you feel like working towards your goal is not worth it, well, take a break. Then, when you do so, take a look at how you feel about the run. Do you feel an urge to come back to it? Or do you feel a sort of relief about taking that break? In my own experience, when I initially stopped running, I actually had sort of both feelings at the same time, which really, honestly, didn't help, and I kind of really weird conundrum what to do. After some time spent thinking about it, I believe it means that you still have that urge to keep speedrunning, but you still haven't resolved what it is that led you to quit in the first place, in which case the break you took isn't the solution to the problem. I obviously cannot speak for everyone, but when looking back at the past and reflecting, it seems clear that me getting burnt out of speedrunning stems from one thing: my inability to handle failure. Failure to go beyond my 3316 PB, failure to practice properly, failure to get a satisfying enough time in other games like Twilight Princess 80%, and so much more. When I initially thought about it, I found it really interesting that this was my conclusion, because it could be argued that, well, speedrunning is about failure. When you spend hours upon hours learning a category to eventually be able to complete your first run, but then kill it because you couldn't perform one trick, that's failure. Every time you mess up, every time you die at the final boss, every time you reset, those are failures. However, the beauty of speedrunning is in learning from those failures to eventually improve. In being so focused on my goal to beat my time, I gradually started to view failure as unacceptable. However, this switch in mindset is what ironically led me to remain stuck in failure, as it did not allow me to accept them, even though they are part of the growth process. The big conclusion as to how I can fall in love with speedrunning again is to learn how to embrace failure again, instead of being repulsed by it. I must learn how to not take things too seriously. Yep. After all of this, the conclusion is something that probably every single successful speedrunner knows. What a fucking surprise. So, what's next then? Whether it be for myself, or for you if you are in a similar situation. Well, once I feel ready for it, I suppose I will try again, but do my best to come with a fresh perspective, and hopefully this time not repeat my own mistakes from the past. Okay, it is now time to close this video. It definitely was quite a weird one to make, as it was quite introspective in the end, but I thought it was worth making for the simple reason that I am sure I mustn't be the only one to burn out from speedrunning, in which case I hope that my experience can perhaps be food for thought for others. There is a lot that I intentionally did not cover in this video, simply because otherwise the video would be way too long, There'll be, for example, how most of my involvement with speedrunning in the past year has mainly been with marathons, and of course, one other huge commitment has been Bingothon, which I've been involved with since 2018. But as I said, developing on all that would mean that the video length would probably double or triple. Now, with all of that said, what is up with my 3D Zelda Challenge series? With the nature of this video, I suppose it can be understandable that I say that it's on the break. Duh. As I said, this challenge was actually part of why I even burnt out, not because of the challenge itself, but because of the way I handled it, which was rather poorly. So for now, I will probably focus back on Breath of the Wild when I feel ready for it. Will it be with any % runs right from the start? I don't know. Either way, that's enough of me talking. Hopefully you can see a pretty cheery me on my Twitch channel as I get back into speedruns in the foreseeable future, and I do hope this introspection could have led any one of you to also have a bit of it as well, and that it could somehow help. Cheers, and see ya!